All right, everybody. Hey, we are ready to rock and roll. Welcome to Note Night in America. Glad to have you guys here for the 8-8 edition, 8-8 2022. Glad to have you guys, like I said, join us from all across the country. Good to see some old faces. Haven't seen in a little while there. Hey, Shelly, how's it going? And others out there from all across the globe. Good stuff tonight. But we've got a lot of great stuff to cover tonight. I'm going to ask you to take some notes, because you're going to probably want to come back and watch this again. And we're going to do a mixture of, obviously, some things I have here in the PowerPoint. We'll also jump over looking at a spreadsheet to kind of help go through the numbers what I'm talking about tonight. But if this is your first time to Note Night in America, hey, welcome. We host these every Monday night, provided that I'm in town or not traveling or it's a holiday. And we've been doing this for over 11 years now. Hard to believe that. 11 years straight of doing this webinar on Monday nights. And we've got a lot of great stuff over the last few years. Definitely, you can always catch the replays of all our previous Note Night in Americas by going to our YouTube channel and checking it out on WeCloseNotes.tv. You can also check out the Note Night in America podcast as well. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel at WeCloseNotes.tv. We are the #1 YouTube channel for note investors out there as far as subscribers, videos, views, all the above. We're pretty proud about that. It's been a lot of work into it, with over 1,500 videos and podcasts, interviews, and presentations for you guys to take advantage of and learn for. So you keep subscribing, you keep watching, we'll keep delivering content out there for you guys. But make sure you check out also the Note Closer Show podcast, which we are coming up on an anniversary, coming up on the 6-year anniversary in 2 weeks, which we're pretty stoked about that. Hard to believe. We did want to do a podcast to start off with, but then we've also got the Note Camp live podcast as well. And that brings me to a quick note. We are less than 2 weeks out from Note Camp 2022. We're going to have right at 30 plus speakers, 4 days of content, 4 full days of content, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really stoked. The lineup has come together quite well. It's an all-day Thursday, all-day Friday, all-day Saturday, and most of the day on Sunday. And we're really stoked. Got a great lineup of experts that come in and share their strategies, their solutions, how they're capitalizing the market. A lot of new speakers to Note Camp for the first time. So we've got our core base of vendors that we use a lot of. But guess what? A lot of new speakers. And that's one of the things I think we always gotta love, is that the fact that we bring fresh content, fresh folks to your business to help you really take advantage of what's going on in the markets. Yes, there's a big core on note investing experts. We got investors coming on talking about some case studies on performing, on wholesaling, some non-performing, some financing deals. We're really excited about a couple folks on here. I'll be sharing some of their case studies we're watching. I've got some new presentations I'm currently putting together for on Sunday. If you have not registered, do so tonight. Go to notecamp.live. RSVP, because the price goes up Wednesday on this, because it's like $99 right now. It's the cheapest you'll get it. $99. If you're not signed up for it already, get signed up, save it, because it goes up to $149. Wednesday, it'll go up to $199 on Monday. And so you definitely will want to take advantage of that. Includes the replays. That includes some other bonuses that'll be included along there as well for you. So there's no additional cost for replays. They're included, and it gives you the opportunity to take advantage of just so much. Note Camp, I'm really tickled about what we got going on here. A lot of folks are really, really excited to be speaking and delivering great stuff because they've seen what we've done and seen the engagement that comes from it. And I'm so tickled for you guys. If you haven't been on Note Camp before, you're going to enjoy it. Not a pitch fest. Yes, there will be some sales involved. Of course, there's always that way. We got to keep the lights on somehow. But so many of the speakers just have huge hearts and are so excited to provide content, actions, marketing, and profit generating nuggets for your note business. So get signed up tonight at notecamp.live. Click on the green button. Should pop up automatically. Show you $99. It's a $300 discount off the normal $399 price there for you. So get rock and roll for it. But tonight is all about creative strategies for note investors. And we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive on this and some of the things. I've got 2 speakers coming on talking about creative strategies, how they're leveraging notes in their creative strategy business. And I thought, you know what, this would be a great topic to talk about. Now, one of the things, if you're part of our WCN crew, or our monthly $97 a month, all you can learn, all you can eat buffet, we have a coaching call every Monday at noon with those folks. and we go through some strategy or some system or something like that. And last week we had someone brought up subject to deals, and I thought it'd be a great way to roll this out to you guys tonight too. We get so many tapes in now. So many people are like, "What's a tape?" Well, a tape is a spreadsheet with assets, and then whether it's one asset on it or thousands in some cases. We just got in a tape in that my one-on-one students are reviewing right now, 102 assets all across the country, non-performing that we got from a hedge fund. We get stuff in every week from different places, but not every deal, every tape we get is a deal. A lot of them can be considered duds, right? And let's kind of go into that. So it's been a great time to invest the last couple of years. All right. If you're a traditional property investor doing a lot of things, there's been a lot of great things that have worked in your favor, right? Low interest rate loans. I mean, I consider anything below 6% to be low interest rate. I think the rate was 5.5% or 5.25%, something like that. I mean, we refinanced a few years ago back, got something, half that for the most part. But I can remember being back to be a mortgage broker and 7% was, 6% was pretty low. My parents had a mortgage on their house. It was the first loan I ever did was, double digits, not mid or low double digits, high double digits, because that's what the deal was, right? We don't want 18% interest rates out there. So we've been very blessed to have cheap money if you can afford to go out. When that equals to what? Low payments, right? Then you also had appreciation working in your favor if you're a property owner. Appreciating, going up in most markets. I mean, sometimes you just hold on to it and it would still appreciate in a lot of cases. We've also seen if you're a landlord, increased rent rates are going up too. Obviously, people are buying houses if they're paying at a more premium price. I saw somebody, there've been all sorts of, well, my parents paid 18 grand for this house. It's now $300,000 now. Well, yeah, it all depends on when they bought it, but increased rental rates are good for landlords, right? It's good. More cash flow coming in most of the time. All right. You're starting to see the increased amount of 40 to 50-year mortgage terms, which makes things even more affordable if you're a homeowner, right? I don't like those for the most part, but a 40 to 50-year mortgage term to make it very affordable. That does away with the old optional arms that were around a few years back. I actually saw a couple of those today from a tape, which kind of cracked me up. But, instead of 30 years, it's 40, 50 years. Now, who's in a house for 50 years? Not too many people. The reason they do that is it makes it cheap monthly payments so you can cash flow. Banks over the last couple of years have been really willing to work with borrowers. If you got in distress, we could modify or put you on a modification plan of some sort or forbearance agreement or just don't pay, They don't want to be the bad guys, but you're starting to see an increase in foreclosure filings, up across the country. You're seeing some default rates and stuff like that. We also look at the fact that people have been saving a little bit more, increased savings across a country, which is great because people have been saving. We won't say the money that Uncle Joe and the government giving, because we all know that has been a lot more than what they say, but the people are saving a little bit, If you look at what's going on right now, if we look at the numbers, there's 140 million, basically 1 to 4 single family home houses. Okay. Now, out of that 140 million, there's 82 million with mortgages of some sort. 14 million of them are just sitting there empty. That's an opportunity in itself. And another 44 million basically are free and clear, where the borrowers don't owe anything on it. Okay. They paid it off. They hold on to it. They lived in it for a while. That three numbers adds up to about 140 million. Now, if you figure in that we got a default rate, a mortgage delinquency rate somewhere around 4% as of May, into Q1, it came out in May, about 4.1%. I think the numbers dipped a little bit, but that's still, if you look at a delinquency rate in the 44% at 82 million, what's that come to? Just over 3.2, 3.3 million homes. You add in the vacant homes out there at 17 million homes that are opportunities out there. Now, that's great. That's plenty of a lot of stuff to take a look at, because what do we see as note investors? We get tapes in where they're occupied or vacant, right? And they may have not a payment for 60, 90 days or 6 years or 10 years in some cases. So it's a great time if you can qualify for cheap financing, great. Or if you have qualified in the past, great. That still leads to distress. Now, why are people distressed? People often say, well, they could just sell their house. Well, not everybody wants to sell their house because they may have no place to go, right? So if you look at that, you still see that real estate is appreciating faster than income. Why does that distress guy? Well, because people can't afford houses. They're literally becoming, in different parts of the country. I think Steph just showed me an infographic that for a normal house a normal 2-bedroom, 2-bath rental, you would have to, at minimum wage, you have to work 124 hours a week to be able to afford that. So you have to work over 2 full-time, technically 3 full-time jobs to be able to afford that in some cases. That doesn't make any sense. We also, like, rent rates are going up faster than, hourly rate. People are just not making enough. People are getting divorced. So there's roughly about 750,000 divorces per year. Now the divorce rate has actually dropped. It's no longer 50%. It's 44%. Okay. And surprise, surprise, I didn't know this one's interesting, but most divorce filings are January through March. So you got tired of going through, let's get through the holidays and let's just call it quits. There's no major, but that's it. So that's a lot of people are distressed right there, right? And then you also have job loss. People get sick with COVID, or they've had a death in the family when the wage earner goes away, or a family member dies, and people are left with houses. I mean, that's one of the things that we happened with the deal we just bought. You also have inflation and other things that are eating away at income, that they're distressed. There's a whole variety of different things. Increased costs of goods. You look at the price of a truck or a new car. If your car breaks or you're in an accident, it's ridiculous, right? And so there's a lot of things that people lead to distress that maybe they're not totally distressed when it comes to house. But here's the thing. They're still having a hard time. There's more month left at the end of their month, their paycheck. Okay. And people have to make a decision. Do I pay the mortgage and not eat, or do I eat and try to make up the mortgage later on? Okay. Now that's why people file bankruptcies. They do that to avoid losing everything. And for most folks, most investors, I won't say no investors, but for no investors, bankruptcies we like them. We like them. BK Chapter 13, great, we'll end up with a mod. BK Chapter 7, great, we'll end up taking a property back and selling it off there. But people file bankruptcy for medical bills and things like that. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can all agree you will find distressed borrowers everywhere, even though everybody keeps talking about how rosy it is. Oh, people are distressed, just sell your house. Well, that doesn't mean that people want to do that all the time, because yes, they may get some capital out of it, but they may not be able to rent a place. They may not be able to do a lot of things. They can't afford to move in to buy something now, or can't qualify now because of late pays or things like that. All right. So that's just kind of setting the stage. Now, when we get a NPN tape, now NPN stands non-performing note for those that are in the know. We see a lot of stuff on there, right? We get a lot of stuff. We see borrowers first and foremost behind their payments. We see borrowers that are off current. We see vacant properties, and I always say that's borrowers who are motivated to move on, especially if it's a vacant property. People are gone. They've left. They don't want to stick around. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing for us as note investors, because we want the cash flow. We want people to come back to the table. There's some opportunities. Most importantly, if you get an NPN tape, you've got a lender, a true lender, who's willing to sell notes. Now, they may have just this portfolio they want to sell, but they're probably going to have more. Like, I had a great conversation at 11:30 today with a seller on this tape. He's like, yep, that's the portfolio we have currently. There's 2 portfolios, Pool A and Pool B. We're looking for loan level pricing. There's a lot of equity on a lot of these. We're looking roughly, we'd expect a weighted bid somewhere in the low 80s. I'm like, oh, I think we can make that work, because these weren't all low interest rate loans. Some were kind of higher, because some of these assets have been around for a while. Some of them hadn't made a payment in 2,200 days. Okay. We also see with the tape is lenders that are willing to work it out. And I want you to think about this a little bit. If a borrower approaches the lender a lot of times and comes to the table from right party contact, that's what RPC stands for, right party contact. Most lenders are willing to work it out in some sort of fashion. They're most really to work with a person who's the borrower, or somebody who's willing to make the payment. Now, if I'm with my portfolio, I'm willing to allow somebody to assume that mortgage or to take over payments. As long as I start getting paid or get paid on time, I'm happier than a pig in slop. Okay. I'm happier than the devil in the middle of July. Okay. In Mississippi, whatever. I'm happier than a kid with a snow cone. But that's the thing you got to keep in mind. Those tapes that we get, whether it's one asset or 100 or 1,000, there's opportunity there, even if we're not able to buy. Now, what stops us from buying those assets? Well, there's a couple of reasons, right? high purchase price for the notes. There's still a gap between a lot of times with what note investors want to pay or we're used to paying. We're not going to see those days of used to. Back to like where we were buying stuff at 5 and 10 cents on the dollar. God, I should have bought a whole lot more, but there's still opportunity. We're still buying stuff that makes sense. Still buying non-performing notes on a monthly basis. Inflation and rates going up, that usually means higher yields on notes. Okay, that's a good thing. But prices got more expensive. Okay, you're not going to buy a portfolio of second for 50 grand anymore. Okay, the great thing is the low interest rate. Scott, what do you mean great thing? Low interest rates don't really do a lot of good for us as note investors. I get it. But we're not necessarily, we're trying to talk about outside the box thing, about creative results. So if you're looking at a portfolio of the interest rates are all low, like at 3% or less, you're probably not going to buy those. The only ones that are going to get excited about buying that would be like a Wall Street firm, Fannie, Freddie Mac, where they've got, or something like that, where they've got cheap money, less, 1% or less straight from the, the monster of Jekyll Island, the Fed, okay, or the Reserve. Because for us at a 3% interest rate, to get 6%, even if we're using our own money and we're happy making 6%, it means we're going to only offer 50% of UPB. And that's not really going to be a win in a lot of cases. Okay. Still going to be tough to make any money at 6%. All right. At 50% UPB, a lot of lenders and banks don't want to sell stuff that cheap. That's okay. You also run into the fact that you've got longer foreclosure timeframes. Things are dragging out a little bit longer. Banks and lenders and states have been dragging stuff out. We all know that. Okay. Now, especially in states like New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Florida, stuff like that, you've got some longer foreclosure timeframes. Now, that leads to the next question: is the unknowing of what the borrower will do. Now, obviously, are they going to stay or go? Now, if they've said, see you later, moved out of the property, we know they're going. But if they're staying there, should I stay or should I go now? Pay, stay, right? A lot of borrowers have been trying to drag this out, but they're not stupid. Okay, let's just face it. If borrowers aren't paying their mortgage, they know there's going to be a knock on the door at some point. And they haven't been paying because they're distressed of some sort. Or either they're not making money, they've been out of work, or see the previous list we talked about. They've gone through the big D and don't need Dallas, all right? But there's still opportunity in those assets, in those tapes, if you get a little creative. If we take lemons and we start squeezing a little bit, we can still get lemonade out of what would technically be a lemon deal for notes. Oh, I don't want to pay for that, it's all low. There's still opportunity if you think outside the box. Now, we're all worried about cash flow, right? So what can we do with these duds? The most part, where they don't make sense. Well, there's a variety of things. You can approach the distressed or hopefully motivated borrowers to take over payments. Now, I'm not talking about calling them, hey, I'm going to buy your note. Do you want to stay? No. That's still a Dodd-Frank issue. You still don't want to do that with fair debt collection practices. CFPB will get you mad. You still can't do that. But what do we do if we're buying the foreclosure list? If we're buying a foreclosure list, or you're going to your state or county and pulling a list pendants, or a notice default list, or an appointment of substitute trustee like we track here in Texas, we can send a letter out to those folks and say, hey, we help you stay in your house. Or we can track them down and pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I saw that your house is on the list pendants list or in default list. Are you interested in potentially selling your house to avoid a foreclosure? Okay, you don't mention anything about buying the note. You never say that. Okay, but you approach them to say, hey, especially if they've moved away, hey, would you be willing to work with me? How about I keep you from going through a foreclosure? How about I keep you from ruining your credit for 7 years? I know you may have walked away, but work with me here to help you. At some point in the next 7 years, if you've gone divorced, you're probably going to end up meeting somebody and hopefully fall in love and probably want to look to buy a house again. Or A, you're probably going to want to buy a house at some point. All right. Now, there's a lot of things where there's no equity. If there's no equity in these deals, okay, there's no value above the balance. That's okay. If they've got that low interest rate that we see, just take over the property. Except you listen, why don't you just sign the property over to me? We'll do a quick claim deed or, put in a land trust some sort, and I'll start making your payments. Now, here's the caveat of that. You want to make sure that you can either turn around and owner finance that or do a lease option or some other things you can do. All right. There's important things. If they have fallen behind their payments and you end up taking that over, get the power of authorization for the bank to talk with you and negotiate a loan mod, take over payments on a reduced loan mod, or if they're 12 months behind or whatever like that, see if you can't do a forbearance and flip it to the front end. I mean, we had one of our students at Keene said he got like 17 grand reduced to $4 grand. hey, if we bring $4,000 to the table, will you reinstate the loan? And the bank was like, yes, banks are more motivated to work with anything. So if somebody comes to the table on behalf of the borrower, great. Now, here's the thing. If there is mortgage late, then guess what? You still have a 2-year, you need to talk with a borrower. So listen, you've been late on your payments. These are going to haunt you for 24 months. All right. So sign the property opportunity. We'll get this out of your property. Get the property, the mortgage out of your name within 3 years, or roughly. Okay. Now, here's the thing too. If the borrower just purchased, well, you'll see that. Like one of the biggest default rates was FHA, VA loans that were newly originated. At the peak, you had 14.6% of all the FHA loans were in default. At the peak, there was over 9% of the VA loans were in default. So those are some great prime, low interest rate loans to take over. But here's the thing. If a borrower's had a late pay, they can't go get refinanced in 24 months. It's going to take, no bank is going to finance them if they've got any late pays. Okay. Now here's another thing. If they just bought the property, just got financed and they've lost their job or can't afford to, which we see, they can't sell the property even there's a ton of equity because there's going to be a huge, they could, but most people don't want to do that. There's a huge tax bill involved with it. So once you set up on a payment plan or set up where we do it says take over such a payment, you just finance it to me for the exact same terms and we put you on an installment plan so you don't have the tax bill. Okay. It's a beautiful strategy to avoid the taxes. You'll see this with landlords too if they got a lot of property. Hey, why don't you just own or finance the property to me? We'll give you cash flow still each month and you'll avoid a tax bill if we do it over 3 or 4 years or whatever. Okay. Now, if there is equity, okay, there's some flexibility you got to do. And you can either negotiate on price or terms. I tell people, you can't get both. I'll give you your price that you want, but you're going to give me terms. Okay. All right. If I'm going to lowball you, I'm going to give you favorable terms. There's a couple of things out there. Yeah, we all know value, equity can vary depending on what condition the property is in, how much is owed, is it outdated or it needs to be updated, how much in tax back payments, what other things, prices dropping. Like my neighbor across the street bought it 2 months ago and his value's already dropped 50 grand. Yay for buying at the peak of the market. Okay. But he was so motivated because he could get into a property. He had a hard time. It took him about a year to find a property. He finally won the bid on. Okay. And will it rebound? Yeah, it'll rebound. In a year, it'll be back at probably where he paid for it and he's going to be okay. Now, the thing is, you got to keep in mind, if they got a lot of equity or they've had the property student, their motivation may be a little bit more than just selling. They may not have the money to repair the property. They may not have the money to make up the back payments. They may not know about it. They may think it's worth one thing and it's not worth another. So here's the thing. If you have somebody that's wise, especially maybe you've got some folks that want to cash out of their free and clear stuff. They don't want to have, if it's an investment property, they don't want to have a huge tax bill. So, hey, owner finance, give me on terms. I'm going to do that. Now, if you give them, if they've got a price that they want, great, I'll give you the price, but I'm going to ask for favorable terms and financing. Ask for 0% financing. You don't get what you don't want. You never get what you don't ask for. Okay. And we've had people like, okay, if you're going to give me my price at peak price of the market, great. I'll give you terms. I'll give you terms over a period of time. And you can put a balloon there. Give me 0% financing for 5 years. After 5 years, I'll pay off. But that's a term. You get, asked to do a wraparound mortgage. Okay. At that amount. So if they owe basically, if they got a low balance or say 50 cents on the dollar, what they owe of the value, say it's worth 500, they only owe 250. Well, hey, give me a wraparound mortgage at 500, but let's just do the 0% financing. So every penny that I pay you goes towards principal if you want that peak of the value. Okay. Now you're going to have to pull some numbers. We're going off on some basic rough numbers here for you. But here's the thing, the benefit to the owner on this stuff. If you're making on-time payments to the bank, it's improving their credit if they've got cracked up credit. You're taking care of the property. They're, you're paying the taxes and insurance. Maybe it's not you directly as they get that extra, but at least you're taking care of the property. You're making sure it's maintaining value. You're removing the headache and ultimately that financial responsibility, whatever that thing is hanging over their head or that, oh no, you're removing that from, or taking care of, I should maybe not, removing would be the wrong word to say here, but you've taken care of that headache and solved an issue. Okay. Now you're making these payments and doing the stuff 2 to 5 years. Okay. Why do we say at least 2 years? Well, because if they've got late pays, it's going to be at least 24 months. And why do we say else if they don't have any late pays or just motivate? It still gives you flexibility on that aspect of things. Okay. It's not a short-term capital gains for them. Okay. And like I said, there's potential cash flow to the owner between what they're paying on their monthly payment and what you're paying to them. Okay. Most of the time, you're definitely going to want your payment that you're paying out, if it's going to be like that, obviously to be more than what their payment is. The taxes, insurance, that's going to be like a pass-through. But definitely what they're paying to their mortgage, it could be cash flow on a monthly basis. Now, you could also maybe bring some lump sum to the table. That I would put an asterisk next to that, because that's going to depend on really what you do for buyers on the back end, or what you end up doing with the asset. Okay, now the benefit to you is if they're willing to deed the property over to you, you've reached out to them, dropped them a letter, tracked them down the phone. Maybe they're willing to deed the property over to you. Now you control the property with potentially favorable terms, either low interest rate financing because there's a bank loan in place that you're working to get back on track, or they've given you preferential terms as well as preferential pricing. Okay? You got little to no money out of pocket when compared to buying, where you're gonna have to come with 3, 5, 10, 20% down. You may not have to come with anything down because you're solving an issue. You're not gonna jump through hoops with no bank qualifying. This is gonna be showing up on your credit. Okay. If you get 0% financing, great. That's another benefit to you, is if you give them the price, that monthly payment is still going to be a little bit less, but it's going to have a dramatic impact on principal reduction on a monthly basis. Okay. You've purchased a property, you put it in a land trust, or you've done an LLC where it was transferred over to a quick claim deed, so it's done pretty fast. And if you start making payments and negotiate it with the bank, and you start making payments, they start accepting payments, the bank can't foreclose or call the note due once they've accepted the payment. Most of them don't want to do that. All right. If they're getting payments, that's what they're happy. Yes. Do they have a due on sale clause in a lot of these mortgages? Yes. But most of the time, they're not going to force it. And they can't. If they've accepted a monthly payment from, they continue to accept monthly payments, and then they find out, oh, you violated a due on sale clause, they try to enforce it, no judge is going to side with them. Plenty of case law out there like, well, you've accepted the payments. It's like having a tenant. If you accept a partial payment from a tenant, you're literally giving them the opportunity to stay. So it's the same thing. Okay. And here's the thing. When you're buying on terms or you're taking over some of these distressed assets, there are really 3 potential profit centers. Now, what are those 3 profit centers? Let's go through that. Okay. Now, it's all about what you end up doing. Now, when you've taken down an asset with low interest rate, where the monthly P&I you're paying out payment is in, you can do what? You can offer up owner financing. You could do a lease option. You could rent the property lease. Okay. But I don't want to own another rental. Okay. You can rent, you can do owner finance or do a lease option property to a buyer, to an end buyer. Now you want to make sure if you are going to rent it, make sure that the market rent is higher than PITI, payment, principal, interest, taxes, insurance. So that's why you've got to research where taxes, what's insurance on the property, and add that to what your payment is, and then compare it to rent rates. And honestly, I don't think I would be doing, I wouldn't want a rental unless you're going to see probably at least $500 a month in cash flow or greater. And that's possible. It is possible. You see some more depending on that, but the better and nicer properties you get in nicer areas, you'll probably see that. I don't want to create another job. I don't want to be property management. I just would rather turn around and owner finance these to other people. Okay. And if you're going to do that, require 10% down or more, preferably down payment. And an 8% interest rate is what I would do, but I would do an interest only loan. That way that balance stays up high while your underlying mortgage is being reduced because they're making the payments. If they finance you terms, that principal reduction is dropping dramatically. So you've got an equity split that's growing dramatically. Now they can do PIT, you can do a principal, interest, tax, and insurance, but I would just say I'm just doing 8% interest only for you for 5 years. Okay. Now your underlying balance reduced, your value will increase obviously over time, which is a great thing. You can hold it for cash flow for a period of time and then either sell it at profit, sell it because you're now the property owner, you're selling it off after 3 to 5 years and realizing more profit of that. So you got a down payment on the front end. You got a monthly profit between what you're paying out in mortgage monthly versus what you're taking in cash flow in either rent or your own owner finance deal or lease option tenant. And then either refinancing out the whole thing in a couple of years or just selling it off at that point. Now, you could, as a carrot to help incentivize borrowers that have a lot of equity. So incentivize, listen, sell me the property as is. You can do a clause where, hey, I'll split profits with you in the future, or I'll give you a payoff. I had an interesting guy reach out to me, since he's reaching out to people that the house is worth 400,000, offering to buy them at 400,000, where he's giving 60% to them, and then asking them to carry the remaining 40% for 3 to 5 years. And then he's doing the basically same thing. I was like, oh, that's pretty creative. You can split the profits with the original seller if you needed to. Now, I wanted to go through some numbers. There's three of these. I got to tape in 5 notes. I just want to go through the first 3. I went through all 5, but I don't want to keep you here all night. I know sure as heck don't want to lose you. But these are actual properties. This is one's in Germantown, Maryland. Another one's going to be in Stanford, Virginia. And what did I do? I didn't just cherry pick 3. I got this tape and said, well, let me look through these 5. These are all owner occupied. These look like the borrowers are just a little behind on some stuff there, but motivated probably. So they've all bought in the last year or 2. And this is the last one here in Capitol Heights, Maryland. And I'm not going to give you all the information as far as borrower's name and full addresses. Those are just these are great looking little properties. And I was able to pull their information relatively quickly. Okay. So I'm going to jump over to the spreadsheet here. I'm going to try to hopefully have you guys follow me along. This is making sense so far, ladies and gentlemen. What kind of questions do you have as we pull up the spreadsheet? Anybody got any questions or concerns? And so once again, when you get a listing tape, how do you reach out? You pick up the phone and track down the borrowers, or you send a letter out to them, try and say, hey, let me help you avoid a foreclosure. Or let me help you take this burden off your head. Now, we used to do a lot of subject twos back a few years ago. I hadn't done so much, but now with the interest rates being so low, it's stupid for you not to try to do these, because you are seeing foreclosures. Now, if somebody's got a hard money loan at 12%, you probably don't want to do that. But we're talking cheap 30-year financing at 2, 3, 4%. That's like free money, ladies and gentlemen. And if you can get folks out there, we all know there's distress for a variety of reasons. People will sign property over all the time. It happens if you just reach out to it. And we've got 2, like I said, 2 speakers at Note Camp and talk more about getting creative with this. Not this coming weekend, but next week at Note Camp 2022. So let me share the spreadsheet here. Now, Germantown, Stafford, Capitol Heights. I've hidden the borrower's name for anonymity to protect the innocent and the full address. But what it is, you can see here, their interest rates are low on these: 2.88, 2.88, 3.63%. Their initial principal and interest payments: 1763, 1783, 1255. They're all 30-year terms. There was one on here at a 40-year term, another one with a 20-year term, but I said, let's go these first 3. So their base loan amount was 424, 429, and 275. Total loan you see the difference on that. They all finance at least like 93, 96%. Okay. First lien, single family homes, 30-year terms. They all had pretty decent scores: 687, 749, 739. One was a streamline refinance. Some was just a rate term refinance. I mean, streamline means that they just went with the same lender and did a streamline rate and term refinance. Okay, streamline was the same. It was pretty easy. They'd already been a borrower with the banks. That's what streamline means. Rate and term means they got a refinance, and then one was a purchase. And on a streamline refi, if they're going with the same lender, they don't really care about your DTI income or debt to income ratios, because it's basically you've been paying on time. If we're going to reduce the interest rate, there's no reason to check DTI and everything. Okay. But the appraised values, they're 440, 460, 295 originally. And then what I did is, here's the numbers that I pulled. Here, and this is where you want to follow me on here. Okay. Is the fair market values are quite a bit higher: 529, 536, and 369. Now, yes, could somebody turn around and sell their house now? But they're all within the 2 years: 2021, 2021, and 2019. And this one's getting closer there. But if they sell, they haven't been there in 3 years. So any type of appreciation or any type of profit they get from the appreciation, it's going to be a taxable event. Remember, if somebody holds on a property for 3 to 5 years, then that's if they've lived in it out of 3 out of 5 years, then that's tax-free growth. But if they do it before 3 years, they get taxed on that profit. So this is one of the things that lead to them. Like, listen, hey, you're behind. So a foreclosure, yes, if it goes to foreclosure, you roll the dice of what it sells for at the auction. Okay, so work with me. All right. Now I ran the rent rates on these three, 2,100, 2,800, and 2,250. Okay. Now let's say my strategy is like, okay, you want to sell it to me or value. All right, great. I want 0% financing. If I'm going to pay what you want in this market for it, if that's what the value is, and of course the value drops down, it'd be less, but 0% interest at fair market value is 1469, 1488, and 1025. Okay. Now looking at this mortgage, let's go back over here. You can see it 1469, 1488, and 1025. That's not quite going to covering paying their mortgage. It's about $200 less than what they owe on a monthly basis. Okay. So you may have to go up a little bit better from there. But a lot of people will say, I'll still, if you're going to take this over, or I can sell it to you with a future payoff, I'm willing to pay the $200 a month just to get out of it. Okay. $200 is a lot cheaper than $1,700. $200 is a lot cheaper than me having to pay $1,783. You get what I'm saying? You reduced that avenue. They're not paying taxes, not paying insurance, but they're now only paying $200 with a nice payout at the end. Okay. So if we look at what their rent rates were, if I can get them at that 0%, then if I rent it and I didn't pull taxes and insurance on, we got to roll that in there. Just off the bat here, I don't think this first one would be ideal for rent because the rent rate's only $2,100. If I'm paying $1,469, taxes and insurance are going to eat up a chunk of that. And that's be pretty marginal. I wouldn't do that. $1,000 a month, okay, I might do that for a rent rate because it's based on taxes and insurance. Same thing here, $994, but you can still see that. Now, my next number here, so like, okay, instead of renting, let's turn around and owner finance this. Let's turn around and find somebody to owner finance it from us, bring some money to the table. Remember, if I get 0% financing, my principal is being reduced at a dramatic fashion, right? So if we did a 10%, we required 10% down payment from somebody who's a distressed borrower or buyer who has beaten up credit, doctors, attorneys, lawyers, remember, 67% of people that have an IRA have more than 150 grand in their accounts, okay? If you're bringing them current and paying, then you didn't. Tony Miller has a question because I tried that years ago when the servicers found out they called the loans and started foreclosing, claiming loans were not assumable. Had problems with Wells Fargo, Chase, and Citibank and SunTrust. SunTrust threatened me with arrest, and the feds rejected their. Yeah, they can threaten you. Anybody can threaten. I can threaten to arrest you right now, Tony. Doesn't mean I can have the right to do it. Okay. What was I doing wrong? You probably should have had an attorney set it up or had a quick claim doing a land trust and named it the land trust, the same address. I don't know how you did a transfer on it, but that may have been and I can't answer what you did wrong. But if you brought them current and paying, then there's no court that would have basically kept it. And if you drag stuff out. I mean, that's the thing is if you put it in a land trust with the same name and the address of the borrower, in a lot of cases, sometimes that helps out there. But sending a notice, I don't know, Tony, we'd have to talk about that offline. We know what was going on there 4 years ago. But we've been able to do this. We had one threaten to do it, then they ended up countering back, said, no. It's also a different time 4 years ago than what it is now, or more than 4 years ago than what's going on now. A lot of things have changed, made banks a little bit more lenient in a lot of cases, okay? So, but anyway, if I turn around and get an owner finance buyer to come in at this, and we do it at 8%, I'm not going to do it less than 8%. If they want to get a cheaper interest rate, let them go out and get a cheaper interest rate and pay me off, right? So if I get 10% down payment, 52, 53, 36, okay? And then that means I'm financing 90%, okay? If I'm doing 90% at 8% interest only payment, make it math really simple, okay? So their monthly payment is $3,174, 3216, and 2214, okay? Oh, it was 20 years ago, you said. Yeah, it's a different time frame. 20 years ago is a little bit different. That's the turn of that, okay? We've had two major things happen since there. All right, so if I got that, now the monthly payment difference between what they're paying me and what I got to pay my 0% interest, this one here is what? Or what the monthly payment that they should be, that the borrower is paying to the bank. So it's $1,400 difference, $1,432 and $958. Now I'm not taking, if I have an owner-occupied buyer in there who's came in, I financed them and they brought a sizable chunk down, Can we agree that 52 grand or 53 grand or 36 grand down is a sizable chunk? They're probably not going to default, right? So that's a pretty good cash flow. Now, at the end of 12 months, you basically made 16,929 in 12 months. Double that for 24 months. Remember, you want to put these arrangements in at least for 24 months, if not longer, to help the borrower if they've got some bruised credit from mortgage late pays. Now, the key is, though, is after that 24-month period, let's just say we go get refinanced out, or our buyer goes to refinances out because now they've made 24 months. They're going to get they worked on their credit. They're going to go get refinanced. Our buyer. So if they then refinance at 90, then we're basically making another profit of getting refinanced out at 43,963. All right, that's pretty good because they've refinanced it out and then net the profit on those numbers. So if you add those numbers up, 43,963 plus the 24 months of payments, plus what? The 10% down on the front end, the 52. That on that one is $130,000 in profit in 24 months. 133,000 on the next one. Okay. And the third thing is 112. Now you're not going to go stick the 10% and go spend it all, go buy you a Lambo or go rent one for a week. But you put it in there so that if something does happen, borrower, I got to foreclose and foreclose that borrower out, or we got to evict them if it's an lease option. I mean, I can't do a lease option here in Texas. They're legal to do, but in other states you can. I mean, I wouldn't in Texas. I just do a mortgage because you can foreclose in 30 days here in Texas. Okay, but you see the profits have those three profit centers of either cash flow on the front end, or down payment, cash flow, back end profits on the refinance or selling the property. Okay. Now, what we know that your principal is going to be reduced quite a bit, dramatically going down. I didn't calculate that. I just figured, okay, let's figure that of what if refinance that at 90%. Great. And we end up seeing that amount there for it. But those are all sizable. Now, those are not exact to the T. I didn't run it through a amortization calculator or anything like that. We just did it based on the high end. So these numbers are actually a little bit low on that for you. But can you guys see the options? Can you see we're taking a look at some of the spreadsheets you've gotten in states? Some Larry Hoffman asked me, would you want to focus on New York and New Jersey? I'm saying you could. I probably wouldn't do New York City. I would also probably want to stick in that where I'm at least at $100,000 home or greater. I probably wouldn't get below 100 grand, maybe even 200 grand. Of course, it's, as appreciation has gone up across the country, you're going to see higher interest rates, but run the numbers. Run the numbers and look at stuff. So you may want to go back and look at the different tapes are coming in. I mean, you look at the non-performing stuff that you see listed. If it's occupied, hey, it may make sense for you to reach out to the borrowers. It may make sense for you to say, hey, I want to help you avoid a foreclosure, but not mention anything at all, especially if the seller on the notes, if the bank and the lender comes and tells you trying to sell the note, that they're probably going to be flexible and working a loan mod. Okay. Shelly loves this. She says, beautiful. It is beautiful because it's taking what we might say no, or where it doesn't make sense for us to buy the note at 80% or 90%, but it does make sense for us if we can get the borrower. Because here's the thing, you're going to have minimal out-of-pocket costs. Now, are you going to have to, in some cases, bring the payments current? Yes. Borrower's behind by a few months, bring it current. But this is why you get the the authorization to release information, or POA, power of attorney on the asset from the borrower, so you can reach out to the bank and make decisions to help negotiate things, trial payment plans, loan modifications, whatever it might be, so that you're playing kind of both sides of the table. If you can buy the note, great. If it makes sense to buy the note, great. But if it doesn't, then maybe you look at buying it. Now, here's the thing. If the borrower's deceased, like we've been seeing a lot of reverse mortgages. Well, this isn't going to work for a reverse mortgage. Okay. It's got to be a true first lien on stuff like that. Could you do it with a contract for deed? Yeah, it's going to be kind of skinny deal with a contract for deed, because most contract for deeds are going to be below $75,000. And that starts getting kind of a, narrow minded, but yeah, I mean, not narrow minded, narrow profit wise. So, but this is a great way to look at some stuff. Cause I know a lot of folks are like, I think over $500,000 I want to mess with, but a lot of you are living in markets, $500,000 at a dump. Okay. Arizona, Nevada, California, here, $500,000 here in Austin is about the mid-rate price range in a lot of cases, or lower than that now. I think it's over it's coming up above 550, 600 now. But anyway, those are the strategies. How do you take these assets and A, can I take it over subject to existing financing? If not, can I buy it on owner financing and negotiate terms? Those are two things I think a lot of people, you got to realize if you're reaching out to banks, banks are sending you these lists, they're telling you their problem children. They're telling you the children that they're looking to move or willing to work with. I've had many banks, many lenders, we were going to buy a non-performing note where the borrower reached out to do a loan mod, and they pulled that asset back because they wanted to keep it. So that's the beautiful thing is if you know a bank is selling notes or a private investor or something like you and me out there, they're motivated to work, and they're not going to be like now. Like Tony rattled off some big names, Chase, Citibank. The reason they did that is because you got some idiot there who doesn't, it represents bank, but doesn't have the common sense to understand, hey, we want to keep paying. This is a good thing. Okay. Yeah, they can threaten you, but you basically dealing with an attorney who's got a hard on trying to prove that they're worth their $500 an hour asking price. Okay. So that's the strategy. This is really the two strategies, guys. Look at your tapes, look at some opportunities. Now, how do you contact them? You probably want to have a separate website. That's not your note buying website. Pretty simple to set up a separate website or just be an investor that sends out stuff. And just say, hey, I'll help you avoid foreclosure. I mean, you can go on and see all sorts of sample postcards of foreclosure relief. And that's one of the things that we would do is that we would send out a letter to tapes sometimes and know, when the bars would respond, we knew that they wanted to stay in the house or they wanted to go. Do you want to stay or do you want to go? We would talk about buying, trying to work out a foreclosure prevention, but also at the same time, we were looking at buying the note. So depending on what the bank was willing to sell us a note at, if we get the bar to the table, not any type of, I'm the only person that knew what both hands were doing, right? We wouldn't promise a loan mod to the bar. We never even talked about loan mods. Say, hey, do you want to avoid a foreclosure? Now, if you see vacant assets that are in good condition, that may be something to look at, especially if the borrower is still around, not deceased or stuff like that. I mean, if there's a dead borrower, you're gonna have a hard time getting that borrower back to the table because I guarantee the bank probably knows that the borrower is deceased. Okay, so those are some things to take a look at. But those are the two strategies. Work on terms, and asking for 0% financing is not unheard of. I've got an attorney buddy of mine, Chris McClatchy, who's out of Melbourne, Florida. He's got a whole program that just talks about asking for 0% financing. And this is where you can beat people to the punch, because a lot of people, sellers get so used on price, right? What's the sales price, not the terms. Oh, if I can get my price or even above my price, I'm willing to be a little bit more flexible if you show me how the flexibility is going to help my bottom line. If you know the fact that, hey, I'm going to offer you more and I'm going to reduce your tax consequences, we're going to spread this out for you so you don't have a huge tax hit, okay? Shelly says, yes, I have Chris's course. It's great. You know what I'm talking about. Chris McClatchy, great guy. Just recently got remarried, I think, again. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to get at, ladies and gentlemen, is there's more than one way to skin a cat. I'm sorry, skin a deal. Just look at your tape. Look at the opportunities there. Doesn't hurt to work both hands. Yes, is this going to be a little more on the direct mail side? Yes, you're going to be sending some postcards, letters, whatever it might be. Or worst case, just pick up the phone and see if you do a skip trace the list, see if you can't find the borrower's right party contact and reach out to them. So you'd be surprised at what you see. I mean, my first ever real estate deal was actually taking over a property subject to. There's a house right around the corner from where I lived. So I drove by it every day. I knew it was vacant. Found out that it was a divorce party. And what happened is the husband had moved near Houston, was working. The wife had moved to California to marry some other guy. But she had control of basically selling the house if she wanted to sell the house, but she didn't want to. So I was able to track down the borrower, the husband. He was willing to work with me. He got his wife to sign off on this. So I took over a property subject to. Zero out of pocket. I actually got $100 when I met him because the lawn needed to be mowed. So I first said, hey, do you want me to mow the lawn? Regardless of this, do you want me to mow your lawn and avoid a weedling? And see, you've got a couple of weedlings. Like, yeah, what do you pay? I said, well, how's $100? I'll keep it up no matter what we decide on here today. He's like, that's great. So he gave me $100. 30 minutes later, he was giving me the key to come and control it. And a month later, we closed on the subject to deal, held on to it for 2 years. For cash flow, it was nice, and then sold it at a little profit after. But it was literally if I walked my dog Princess, I'd walk by this house every day, and you'll see that. If you see maybe you track divorces. Maybe another thing that we used to do was tracking probate leads. When we see somebody pass away, I would send them a letter. Send the person that passed away a letter, because I can see if you jump on the appraisal district, you can see if that borrower or that person owns any real estate in the county of there. So that's another thing. And we would get people that would call me, hey, you got your letter, how'd you know? So, oh, I'm just reaching out because be buying, investing in real estate, and I apologize for your loss. Do you have some real estate you want to sell? Yeah, we've got some property we want to liquidate, we want to get rid of. Like, great. Let's talk terms and price. Let's talk terms and price and see if we can get this going. So those are some great things that worked out really well for you, and us in the past, and it's time to get rock and roll. Yep. Tony says in some states like Florida, foreclosure rescue is regulated and limited to attorneys and certain licensed individuals or business. Yep, that's true. But it still doesn't mean you can't reach out and say, do you want to sell the house? Okay. Yes, I know, like in Maryland, you have the license to be a short sale negotiator, stuff like that. But still, same thing. Hey, do you want to sell your house? Let's talk about terms. Still can sign a power of attorney to contact the bank on behalf of the borrower to negotiate. You're technically the bar at that point. You're individual for that. Okay, it doesn't mean anything of other things, but there's still opportunities for you to do that. Let's not be so inside the box. All right. Sometimes thinking outside the box is profitable. If you're inside the box, you got to stick, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see who ends up closing more deals. So this is not illegal. Okay. See you in the next WCN call. Sounds good, Shelly. That'll be Monday on that stuff. Guys, once again, if you have not checked out Note Camp, do so. Get you a ticket, because I will tell you right now, things are rocking and rolling at Note Camp. We got a great lineup. Go to notecamp.live. I'll put this in the chat roll for you all. Sign up for $99. Well worth it. Replays. If you can't, I understand you can't make all the sessions Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Mine can only over the asking withstand. Trust me, come Sunday night, I'm gonna be pretty brain dead. But a lot of opportunities. The replays will be out usually by that Wednesday afterwards, and just a lot of great opportunity for you. So notecamp.live. Just go there, click on the register now. I need to update the video in here, or RSVP your spot, put your information there, register, and it'll take you to checkout page. $99, get signed up. The replays will be sent out. We'll send you a Zoom link with access to it so that you can partake in all 4 days. You only got to register for it once, and then you'll have all 4-day access for it as well there for you. All right. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we let you guys go here on Monday night? All right, everybody. Hey, thank you so much for coming on. Right at just under an hour for you guys tonight. Take those strategies, put them in your pocket, and use them. They're a note strategy, but we use that strategy with our non-performing notes we get in tapes. I'm sure I see some of my students on there who are buying notes are going back and like, let's look at all these tapes we passed on. What did I bid on earlier? What did I not bid on that I can take advantage of now? So another strategy, another way to make some money, because it's all about cash flow, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about adding cash flow every month to your bottom line to hit your goals sooner than later. If you're not taking action, we know what the outcome of that will be. Got to take action. Got to get a little bit better each day. It's all about a little bit better, 5% better. Do a little bit more each day, and at the end of 90 days, you're going to be, wow, I got a lot more done, a lot further along than I ever wanted to be. So, have a great evening, everybody. We'll see you guys later on. Thanks much, Reese. Hey, buddy, good to see you, buddy. We look forward to seeing you here in Austin in a couple of weeks. RJ, same thing for you for our Austin Note Mastermind. Looking forward. That's going to be a great time. Some good stuff. I'll be reaching out to a few folks. Matrice, I'd actually like for you to do a little presentation on how you're targeting some mobile home notes and making some things happen with that. So let's talk this week if you got time on your schedule. Okay. All right, everybody. Take care. Love you all. Be safe, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.